human rights in terms of even when we are doing roads, Honorable Speaker, you remember people are displaced from their places of businesses, from their homes, without due compensation, Honorable Speaker, and without regard to the effect that we have on the people that we are displacing in terms of adhering to their human rights. Honorable Speaker, this policy document speaks to that. Honorable Speaker, the National Action Plan has 4 key objectives, namely to guide the state in fulfilling its duty to protect individuals and communities from business-related human rights abuses, to guide businesses on the measures they should take to meet their responsibility to respect human rights in their operations, to promote human rights due diligence by businesses, and to offer a roadmap of strengthening access to state-based judicial and non-judicial remedies. Honorable Speaker, again, from these key objectives, this National Action Plan seeks, as I say, to protect both individuals and communities. And that's why I was giving the clear examples, Honorable Speaker, when we displace people from their homes, we affect their businesses, maybe when you are constructing a road or something, or even a factory that is being built in a neighborhood without due regard to the pollution that you bring in the neighborhood, putting to risk people's lives. And therefore, this National Action Plan will ensure, Honorable Speaker, that policies are there to protect. The second objective, Honorable Speaker, as I've mentioned, is to guide businesses on the measures they should take to meet their responsibility to respect human rights in their operations, just to make sure that businesses are aware of what measures they should take to ensure that they adhere to the protection of human rights of the people. It also obligates government, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that government has a responsibility and a duty of care that it owes to the people, either individually or communally in the communities we live in, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the National Action Plan is divided into 4 chapters. The first chapter covers the background information, the formulation process, and the objective of the National Action Plan. The development of the National Action Plan was spearheaded by a multi-agency steering committee, which had membership from government, trade unions, the private sector, national human rights institutions, and the civil society organizations. After a 4-year period of extensive stakeholder consultations, the National Action Plan was drafted in 2019 and received cabinet approval in February 2021 before it was tabled in this House, as I mentioned earlier on, in September of 2021. Honorable Speaker, the second chapter of the National Action Plan addresses the situational analysis and focuses on 5 key themes, namely access to land, environmental protection, labor rights, revenue transparency, and access to remedy. These themes highlight the key business and human rights concerns identified from the stakeholder consultations. The chapter also highlights policy concerns under these themes. Honorable Speaker, members will agree with me that these 5 key themes, access to land, Honorable Speaker, is quite, and you know how emotive the land issue in Kenya is. And you find in places, Honorable Speaker, and you have very good examples, especially when dams are being built, that access to land becomes a problem, people end up being displaced. Environmental protection, again, Honorable Speaker, you've seen the cases where dams, for instance, investors want to do dams in forests, therefore degrading our environment. And that environment has a bearing on our rights as communities and as individuals who live around those areas. And therefore, some of these themes, Honorable Speaker, including labor rights, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, you bear with me, there are certain nationalities who have heavily invested in our country, Honorable Speaker. I'm just avoiding to mention names of friendly nations, Honorable Speaker. But we have seen countries or nationalities of certain countries abuse our people in terms of their labor rights. Our people are made to work for long hours without due compensation in terms of overtime. Some work under very degrading environments. Members will bear witness that you have seen contractors on roads who are doing roads with very dusty work being done, but something as simple as a face mask or goggles are not issued to these workers as they carry on work. And therefore, this action plan seeks to protect those people so that we also help government and help our nation in bringing down the cost of healthcare. And Honorable Speaker, you know, respiratory diseases in this country are a big problem. And some of those diseases emanate from investment activities or the activities of our investors who disregard all manner of human rights and therefore subject their workers to inhumane working conditions. People work without masks. People are working in factories where they are mixing chemicals without respiratory safety gear to protect their respiratory system, Honorable Speaker. And they end up, at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, contracting diseases. Honorable Speaker, members will remember the many cases of cancer cases around our flower farms in Naivasha and in other areas where people grow flowers, where people are subjected to working in greenhouses that have a lot of chemical emissions, and they have no safety protection at all. Therefore, this national action plan and the themes around it seeks to protect these people, even as we protect businesses. It also ensures, Honorable Speaker, that people have remedies, both judicial and non-judicial remedies, that if investors or if a government agency, a state-owned corporation or a privately owned corporation harms people's health or even their environment, the people individually or as a community have recourse, either through the judicial system or other non-judicial remedies that will ensure that they are adequately compensated, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the third chapter is the policy actions that have adopted the three-pillar framework of the UNGPs, namely the state duty to protect human rights. As I said, the state has a duty to protect human rights, both individually and communally. Two, the corporate responsibility to respect human rights. As I mentioned, that our corporates, both state-owned and private, have a responsibility to respect human rights. And three is access to remedy, as I was mentioning, that should your rights be contravened, whether you're a worker, whether you're a community, you remember cases in point, the case in point of oil spillage in some river in Makueni. That community in Makueni ought to have some remedy, Honorable Speaker, in law, and this policy addresses some of those things. The chapter also details key policy priority areas that the government will focus on for the next 5 years in a bid to ensure that all businesses, including state-owned enterprises, respect human rights. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, that's what I'm saying. Even our state-owned agencies, like the road agencies, Kera, Kura, Kenha, when they are building roads, whether it's Kengen that is extracting geothermal energy in Olkaria or in Menengai or wherever else, they have to respect human rights. They don't have the impunity that because they are state-owned, then they are excluded from the respect of human rights. The policy, Honorable Speaker, the policy actions under Pillar 1 on the state duty to protect human rights include the introduction of human rights due diligence requirement for businesses before licensing. That now before you license a business, the state will ensure that they have done some due diligence on how well that particular business adheres to the protection and respect of human rights. The use of public procurement systems to promote human rights, again, that's something, again, members could also think about, even as we seek to begin our work in this 13th Assembly in terms of legislation. We may think about even legislative interventions on how we will incorporate human rights due diligence as part of the public procurement systems to ensure that every other corporate, be it private or corporate, that is getting government, for instance, from government, have a duty and a responsibility to ensure that they protect human rights. And maybe it could be something that they get a score on, just like we get financial scores and technical scores when we are evaluating our public procurement bidders. Maybe something we could look at, Honorable Speaker, and I want to challenge members to think around those issues, especially on public procurement. Honorable Speaker, the alignment of all trade agreements to international human rights standards is also another issue. The development of guidelines for non-financial reporting under the Companies Act. Again, Honorable Speaker, you remember in the 12th Parliament, we enacted the company laws. There's also an opportunity, and I'm only mentioning this to give members, especially our new members, ideas on some of the key areas that you could borrow ideas from to develop bills that will not only place you in good standing with your constituents and the nation, but also borrow from such policies that you can introduce amendments to the company laws that we passed last year to ensure that there are guidelines on non-financial reporting on how well either state or non-state actors in the corporate world adhere to human rights. The other thing is the strengthening of oversight mechanisms such as the Labor Inspectorate to ensure that our Labor Inspectorate Department, Honorable Speaker, is well empowered and well resourced to ensure that they are able to ensure that all our corporates do adhere to the protection of human rights. And again, Honorable Speaker, and I'm sure I have seen the newly appointed Minister or Cabinet Secretary in charge of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Alfred Mutua, has already taken, as he said during vetting, his trip to Saudi Arabia. But I really want to challenge this House that we have a duty to protect those of our young men and ladies who are working in the Gulf states from the abuses that we have seen. And it is such national action plans that will guide us to formulate even laws that will protect our labor force, Honorable Speaker. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, is the development of a natural resource revenue management policy and the expedition of land, adjudication, and registration processes. Honorable Speaker, I don't need to belabor the question of land. Members do know and are aware of how emotive the issue of land is. And maybe we have laws that we have not respected very well. You will find in our neighborhoods, Honorable Speaker, somebody comes to build a factory that has emissions that are harmful to children. And these things are being done in neighborhoods, in residential areas. In other places, they do near rivers, polluting our rivers. The case in point, Honorable Speaker, is the case of Nairobi River. Members will appreciate the degradation and the pollution in all our rivers, not just Nairobi River, although Nairobi River, because of passing through our industrial area and numerous residential areas, has suffered a lot. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the policy action plan under Pillar 2 on the corporate responsibility to respect human rights include developing guideline tools for businesses on their duty to respect human rights, requiring businesses to adopt human rights policies, encouraging proactive disclosure by businesses on their human rights impacts, and requiring businesses to cooperate with government agencies and other stakeholders in facilitating access to remedies for business-related human rights violations. That, Honorable Speaker, if a business violates the rights of its workers, the people, or the community, that they will also cooperate with government agencies to be able to ensure that the people whose rights have been violated access remedies, and these remedies could include compensation for abuse of rights. Honorable Speaker, the policy action plan actions under Pillar 3 on access to remedy include promoting the use of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, strengthening the National Legal Aid Program, and creating awareness of the judicial and non-judicial remedies available to victims of business-related human rights violations. Again, Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, we are looking at both judicial and non-judicial, and that's why Pillar 3 speaks to the alternative dispute resolution mechanism, so that where corporates abuse the rights of communities or a people, people don't necessarily have to go to court. They could engage in non-judicial processes and alternative dispute resolution mechanisms to be able to ensure that people get remedy. Honorable Speaker, the fourth and the last chapter of this National Action Plan provides the implementation framework of the policy, and it proposes the establishment of an interagency implementation committee to oversee the implementation of this policy. It further provides that the National Action Plan will be reviewed periodically to capture the emerging issues in the business and human rights disclosure. Honorable Speaker, I beg Honorable Speaker to move that this House then adopts this sessional paper number 3 of 2021, which, Honorable Speaker, members being able to peruse it as it's already in the table office, will see the work that went into the production of this particular policy plan and how beneficial it is to our communities and also to the business community in the country. Honorable Speaker, with those, I beg to move And I want to ask my deputy leader, the Honorable Mbaya, to second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to second the Sessional Paper number 3 of 2021, the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. Mr. Speaker, for many years in this country, human rights issues have been against government, that government is trampling on the human rights of its citizens. And for many years, we had civil rights organizations and a lot of CBOs that came out to protest against the abuse of human rights. But now, as human rights platforms have moved, now it is looking at what are businesses doing? What are businesses doing? What are organizations? What are profitable organizations doing? What are non-state actor organizations doing in terms of human rights? And this action plan that is being tabled today and moved is a step towards strengthening human rights with governance, linking good governance with human rights in this country. And it is not only looking at governance from the state perspective, but also at the business perspective. Many times, Mr. Speaker, you have organizations that are profit-making. They make huge profits in this country, but they trample on the rights of individuals, especially labor rights. And when these people whose rights are being trampled on, they do not have a judicial recourse. They cannot have judicial remedies because these companies are powerful, these companies have connections, these companies are such that they're untouchable. But today, the launch of this organization is a big reprieve for this country, that today you can actually seek judicial remedy because you work in an organization, and in that organization, your rights have been trampled on, and you can actually seek it and get it, because today we are doing that. And we want to tell these big companies, multi-agencies, the blue chip companies, respect human rights, respect the rights of the people that work for you. Very many factories today get built in this country by foreigners, even by Kenyans. But when people start working there, one of the things that they do is women's rights. How are women respected in that organization? When women are employed, what mechanisms are used to employ those women? How are they treated? Are they sexually abused? Are their rights as women trampled on in that organization? Today, Mr. Speaker, the launch of this action plan gives women working in those companies an opportunity to seek judicial review, but also to demand respect within the organization, within the framework of the law. Mr. Speaker, we've seen ILO talking about child labor, and that child labor is actually a travesty on human rights. But it has continued in many organizations. Today, this action plan that is being moved in this, and we're asking for adoption in this parliament, is guarding against child labor. That children should be given the opportunity to go to school, complete school, and seek employment. But child labor is a source of cheap labor, and many organizations actually look for it and employ young people so that they can get cheap labor out of it. We are saying, as a country, as a nation, we are the second law to launch this action plan. We are saying we need to move forward, protect our children from unscrupulous business people who are looking for cheap labor. Mr. Speaker, when you look at this action plan, it has pillars that provides guidelines for businesses to promote human rights, to give judicial remedies, and also to give individual communities an opportunity to defend their rights. Mr. Speaker, there are communities in this country that live at the behest of big multinationals because they have an opportunity to do mining. When they are doing mining in that area, they do not care about the environmental issues in that place. These people get respiratory diseases because a company in that area is doing mining, they are emitting dust, they are emitting dangerous gases, but these people have nowhere to go. But we are telling these companies that are setting up factories in those areas and they want to use land and they do want to do mining, we have an action plan. Look at it so that as you're developing your SOPs as an organization, you are able to protect the environment and protect the rights of those people. Mr. Speaker, a lot of the big roads that are being made today, people go out to get maram. They get a lot of materials from other places. But when you go there, Mr. Speaker, they leave huge excavations, huge holes on the land, and they don't care about it. Land rights are human rights. But yet the rights of these people who live in this place are not protected. What you hear is a child was passing by, walked inside there, the water was very deep, and that child died. And there is no recourse for that child who died or the family that lost that person. A person working in a factory has his hand cut because of a machine, but that person has no remedy in law or in courts, or does not get the opportunity for judicial reviews or such like things because that company does not want to give that worker an opportunity. The pay, Mr. Speaker, that is given to workers who work in some of these factories is something that is shameful for a country. But because we do not have an action plan for infusing human rights within business activities, then our people suffer. Mr. Speaker, we are asking this House to pass this action plan. But we should not just pass this action plan, we should ensure it is enforced so that our people in this country are respected, their human rights are respected wherever they work, wherever they are, so that big businesses do not make profit with trampling on the rights of our people. Mr. Speaker, I second and I ask this House to read this, and the committees in this House, every committee, as you meet your ministers, as you meet the people in the ministry, tell them that there's an action plan on human rights and business. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I second.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. I now propose the question that this House adopt Sessional Paper number 3 of 2021 on the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights laid on the table of the House on 21st September 2021. Honorable members, you know the procedural motions you passed here limits debate on this motion to 5 minutes per member. Paul Biego Chesumei.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for according me this privilege and honor to make my maiden speech. I've really waited for this opportunity, and thank God the opportunity has been got. It goes without saying that the real honor is to the great people of Chesumei constituency, who in their wisdom accorded me the opportunity to be part of the 13th Parliament by immensely electing me to represent them. My name is Paul Kibichi Biego. I want to congratulate you, Mr. Speaker, and your deputy for winning the confidence of this House to lead the legislative agenda, and as I also extend my congratulations to the members of this House as we seek to join hands to make substantive deliberations. I thank God for the far that He has brought me, and I also thank my family, more so my wife, who unconditionally supported my ambitions and aspirations. I also am not also forgetting my campaigners who came together in large numbers to form Team Polo, in which we collectively combed villages and homesteads seeking votes. Furthermore, I wish to convey my gratitude to our party UDA and Kenya Kwanza family led by His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and I confess that the party's ideals and manifesto not only resonated with me, but also with the people of Nandi and Kenyans at large. As Martin Luther King Jr. once put it, even if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, go out and sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures, sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music, sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry, sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a good street sweeper who did his job so well, and today I stand tall and firm to live up to those words. I seek to be the best in my representation to the great people of Chesumei constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, my constituency is located in Nandi County and an area of astute agricultural background, and as I stand here, I stand on top of dilapidated roads in which I seek to be the solution for my people, for them to be able to move their products from the villages to the markets. Worst affected, amongst many others, are the tea farmers, who are having an horrendous task faring the same due to bad roads. As over the past few days, we've witnessed not less than 3 lorries overturning as the drivers are unable to navigate through the bad roads. Just to mention a few roads within my jurisdiction which need urgent attention is the Baraton Samo, Chemuswa Danger, Kimondi, Kaiboi, Lelmoku Angechek, Belekenya Masaba roads, amongst others. This will go forth to ensure proper road network to the success of government programs for now and the future, as we are aware of the distribution of NPK fertilizers, which is destined to smallholder tea growers across the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government also a few days flagged off a consignment of DAP fertilizers to the farmers, and as we commit to provide affordable farm inputs through subsidy, which is a strategic intervention that will put the country on the right path as far as food security is concerned, I wish to call for proper and equal distribution mechanisms to enable all farmers, including those right in the interior and remote areas, to receive the subsidized fertilizers, as we utilize locational administrators for easy access to the farmers. Mr. Speaker, I represent qualified but unemployed young people whose faith and hope are pegged on me to look for jobs, opportunities for them to get meaningful livelihood and provide themselves and their families. Mr. Speaker, sir, as a young legislator and a first-timer, would beg to know what criteria is used in giving people to speak in this house, because I've been in the queue for a very long time. But because I'm seeing my time has gone, then I will give the motion next time, but would like to be given equal opportunity so that you can be speaking.
Honorable members, I know the honorable member has made a maiden speech, but as you make your maiden speeches, be relevant to the motion on the floor. The good member has made a very good speech about his constituency and made no reference to the motion on the floor. I want to invite the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe. Now, my screen is full. I don't know if members have logged in for the constitutional amendment proposed bill, yes, or for this sessional paper. Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise on point of order number 83. And in line with what you've just said, Honorable Speaker, I wish to remind you that, Honorable Speaker, in the 12th and 11th parliaments, we used to have father and mother of the house. Honorable Speaker, as we progress into the 13th assembly, we seem to be assuming that we don't have father and mother of this house. I would wish, Honorable Speaker, to take this chance to request you that you nominate for us the father and mother of the house who will help to mentor the young legislators, so that, Honorable Speaker, in line with the practice of the CPA, so that we are able, some of these issues which you are raising in terms of procedures and processes, which are not gathered for in the constitutional, in the standing orders, Honorable Speaker, can be taken care of. Honorable Speaker, as I raise that, I may maybe just make a slight contribution using this chance also towards the session paper which has been proposed. I wish to support it, Honorable Speaker, especially, Honorable Speaker, the clauses which provide for the safeguarding of human rights for our people who are going to work outside this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it really perturbs you to find that our girls, our boys are going out of this country unguided in law. And, Honorable Speaker, when they return, instead of them returning back with success, they return back as packed cargo, just because they've been mistreated, they have been butchered, they've been murdered, and, Honorable Speaker, some of them have not been returned. So it's important, Honorable Speaker, that we approve this sessional paper for this, through this 13th Assembly, so that, Honorable Speaker, we can protect those who are working overseas and even within our industries, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
Honorable Kosgei. Is it called Kosgei? The honorable member at the back. The point raised by the Honorable Wangwe about the father and mothers of the house, I will communicate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I take this opportunity from the onset to support the motion on the floor. The question of human rights touches so much on the day-to-day lives in countries and in our own country. The issue of human rights, should be understood as a moral entitlement that every individual in the world possesses, given by God, and that being a human being, you are entitled to that right. One of the issues that we observe, and especially from persons with disability, is the question of accessibility to places of public services, to citizenry. I have traveled. At one point, I had an experience, and I discovered it was not me alone, Mr. Speaker, where the airlines in this country would not provide a means by which we enter into the plane, depending on the disability. And I was shocked one day when I was told by one of the flights, who admitted you into this flight anyway? But after bringing to the attention of the House through various committees, I was surprised to learn that people and some of the companies don't think that it is a human right issue. And therefore, I support this bill or this motion this afternoon, and we want to address so many issues that once this will be enforced. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
Okay, thank you. The Honorable Kahindi Katana. I don't know if you want to contribute on this motion or the constitutional issue. If you are logging in for constitution, you hold your horses until 3:30. If you are on this motion, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. I support the motion because on the issue of human rights, we have seen so many multinationals who have no respect to the workers whom they employ in their companies. Mr. Speaker, it is so sad that especially young women who have been employed in these areas, they become prey for the managers or the supervisors. They abuse them sexually. So I support the motion because it is going to bring to an end this kind of abuse to our young women. Mr. Speaker, these companies also, once they do the minings, they disregard the environmental issues. They only think of how much money they are going to make. Then they leave us with a lot of problems with our environment. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion. Thank you.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable majority leader and your team. Honorable members, I want to acknowledge the presence in the Public Gallery of Kongoni Primary School from Langata constituency, Nairobi. On your behalf and my behalf, we welcome the school to the House of Parliament. Honourable members, there's a short communication. I wish to inform the House that I received 2 letters relating to the ongoing elections of chairpersons and vice chairpersons of committees. The first letter is from the Honourable Leader of the Minority Party, the Honourable Pio Wandai, CBS MP. The second one is from the member for Kipipiri, the Honourable Wanjiku Muhia MP. In this letter, the Leader of the Minority Party sought postponement of elections of chairpersons and vice chairpersons of the Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and the Departmental Committee on Energy from tomorrow, Thursday, 3rd November 2022 to Friday, 10th November 2022. The deferment is informed by the need to reorganize membership of committees in line with Standing Order 174 in view of vacancies arising from the elections of the chairpersons and vice chairpersons of departmental committees. On her part, the Honourable Member for Kipipiri, the Honourable Wanjiku Muhia, MP, notified me that she is a member of the Select Committee on Regional Integration, where she will be vying for position of chairperson in the election scheduled to take place on Friday, 4th November 2022. She was concerned that the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Elections of IALA, which she co-chairs, would be retreating in Mombasa on Friday, 3rd November 2022, to consider matters with the statutory timelines. That will disenfranchise her in the elections proceeded, if the elections proceeded as scheduled. The member therefore sought the intelligence of the Speaker to reschedule the elections from Friday 4th to Thursday 3rd November 2022 in order to enable her to participate in the elections and thereafter proceed to attend the ad hoc committee meeting. Honourable members have since acceded to both requests by the Leader of the Minority and the Honourable Wanjiku. In this regard, therefore, the elections of chairpersons and vice chairpersons of the affected committees are scheduled as follows. The Committee on Regional Integration will hold elections tomorrow, Thursday, the 3rd November 2022 at 3:30 p.m. The elections by the Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and the Departmental Committee on Energy stand deferred to Friday, 10th November 2022 in the morning. I think it's at about 9. The House is accordingly guided. I thank you. Honorable Didymus Barasa, you have 4 minutes on this motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Even as I support this sessional paper, Honorable Speaker, I know for a fact that this is not the first time that we are having such thing before this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Factories and Other Places of Work Act of 1997 was repealed to Occupational Health and Safety Act of 2007 that specifies and makes it mandatory that all employers, that all institutions, whether government or private, must be able to employ a safety and an environmental officer who will assist them mitigate against risks that employees may face, Honorable Speaker. Subsequently, this act birthed an institution called the Directorate of Occupational Health and Safety, who is supposed to annually audit all institutions, whether government and private, on annual basis, to be able to approve their preparedness, their willingness, and their response to the very many risks that employees face, Honorable Speaker. So, as a House, what we should be asking ourselves is whether the Directorate of Occupational Health and Safety is doing her work in line with the legal provisions or not. We even have National Environmental Management Authority that is supposed to audit institutions, those that are not able to deal with the mitigations against the environment. They are dealt with by this National Environmental Management Authority, Honorable Speaker. And again, another question that we should ask ourselves is whether NEMA is doing enough to ensure that our environment are protected. Even the Employment Act, Honorable Speaker, it puts the responsibility of ensuring that the very basic rights of employees by the employer are taken care of. This is not limited to things to do with the child labor. So I know, Honorable Speaker, that even as we approve this sessional paper, we already have enough laws in this country that it takes care of these particular risks, that takes care of the interest of employees in terms of working in a very safe environment. We are aware, Honorable Speaker, that thousands, or if not millions of people in this country who have contracted various occupational diseases and ailments because of the working conditions, Honorable Speaker. The reason as to why this House and the Constitution allowed for the passage of the law that takes care of injuries that an individual might get or sustain from work-related issues was to put the responsibility on institutions to put much efforts in protecting the rights of employees, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think time has come where we need to relook at the Work Injuries and the Benefits Act to be able to increase those benefits. If that is what will make everybody who is an employee in this country, whether government or private, to put much efforts in ensuring that employees works in an environment that is conducive, that will not make them prone to contracting this occupational ailment, Honorable Speaker. With these very few remarks, I support, but I say yes, we have enough existing laws against what is being proposed here, and it is up to this government, is up to this House to ensure that institutions charged with the responsibility of ensuring work environments are conducive do what we expect them to do, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Honorable Majority Leader, in keeping with my earlier direction that your debate will be interrupted at 3:30, Order Minority Whip. Understanding Order 96, you may have to get a member to move the House to adjourn debate, get a seconder. We put the question, then we go to the constitutional debate. The Honorable Pokose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I move understanding Order 96 that we adjourn this debate, considering that you had scheduled, you had given initial direction that the House will be able to adjourn so that we can deal with the constitutional matter. This is a very important matter on the planned action on this sessional paper number 3, and we'll be able to discuss it further. So I move and ask Honorable Ndindi Nyoro to second.
Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, give him the mic.
Mr. Speaker, I second.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Minority Whip, you seem to have had a good lunch. Honorable members, in accordance with the Standing Order 96 and the provisions therein, I beg to put the question that debate on the motion at Order number 8 do now adjourn. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. That motion is consequently put in abeyance. It will be back on the order paper either tomorrow or Tuesday. We'll now move to the pre-publication debate on the constitutional bill proposed by the Honorable Mule